Hi, folks. It's Brad. Listen to my podcast. That's what I want you to do. And don't forget to donate. I noticed that other YouTubers put that at the beginning, so I'm going to put that at the beginning. So do that. I would like to talk to you today about retreats, because we just finished one up at Mount Baldy. We've been doing these twice a year for the past 6 years. I have been saying for the past 6 years, let's do them once a year, but nobody listens to me, and they insist on doing them twice, which is a bit much. But we do them twice, so I don't know. Hopefully next year we'll only do one, but we'll see about that. Some people had wanted to know about retreats, so I wanted to talk about retreats and about Dokusan. Here is the retreat schedule. I guess you'll have to freeze frame that if you want to get a good look at it. But let's look at Saturday, because that's the one full day. All right. You can see that we wake up at 5:15. First zazen is at 5:30. Then we have that morning service, free time, breakfast, work period. Work period is a very important part of the practice. Yoga, more zazen, dharma talk, lunch, etc., etc. You can read it yourself. And then we go to bed at 9. This is a modified version of Nishijima Roshi's schedule that he did for retreats that we did at Shizuoka in Tokein Temple in Japan. On those retreats, there was no yoga. We woke up at 4:30 in the morning. I believe that the first zazen must have been at 4:45 or 4:50. I don't think we had a half an hour, so I don't think it was at 5. So it was a bit earlier. There was more zazen. There was no yoga. There was the same amount of dharma talks per day, and the same going to bed schedule. And also there was a Japanese ofuro, a real Japanese bath there. So that kind of bath time is a leftover from the Nishijima retreats, where we would actually go and sit in a bath. So I got to see my Zen teacher naked a lot during those retreats. Got to see everybody else, all the dudes anyway, naked, because we did the bath time separately for the men and for the women. One of the differences between the Nishijima Roshi retreats and our retreats is that I offer Dokusan during the retreat. The word Dokusan is composed of two characters which mean individual. Doku, Dokuritsu, Dokushin. Dokuritsu is like individualism, or like individual personality. Dokushin is like a single person. So Doku means single, and San means to visit. So single visit. And it means you go one by one into the teacher's area. In my case, I go and sit. There's a separate zendo. They have 2 zendos at Mount Baldy, and we only ever get enough people to fill the one. So we use the other zendo for Dokusan, and people can come in and sit for a while with me and chat. Nishijima Roshi did not do Dokusan. I never even heard the word Dokusan around when we were doing our thing with him. Tim McCarthy, on the other hand, always did Dokusan. So it sort of depends on the teacher. I know that at San Francisco Zen Center and its sort of tributary temples, Dokusan is a standard issue thing. Some places do it, some places don't. In the Sambo Kyodan tradition, the Maizumi, the one that's usually associated with Maizumi Roshi in America, they do Dokusan a little bit differently, in which they sort of do a Rinzai style thing. Rinzai style Zen has this tradition called Sanzen, which is a little bit different from Dokusan. In Sanzen, you go into the teacher and you've been given a koan. Maybe you're given a koan during the first Sanzen, but in subsequent ones you go in and you respond to the koan. The Dokusan, as done in the Maizumi lineage, they come into the teacher and say, there's a standard sort of ritual format. So they come in, they do prostrations to the teacher. I don't know if they just do one or if they do more. And then they say, my name is, and my practice is. And they'll say, my practice is, if they're doing shikantaza, they'll say shikantaza. If their practice is a certain koan, they say the name of the koan, or they give the koan, I guess. I only know this because people keep trying to do that to me. So I found it really funny the first couple of times when people would do this. Funny meaning unusual or interesting, not necessarily I'm making fun of them. Because The first time it happened, I thought, oh, that guy's funny, or whatever. Not funny, like ridiculous, but that's unusual. And then the second time it happened, and the third time it happened, the fourth time it happened. Oh, I figured this was a pattern. I started asking people and saying, why do you do it that way? And I found out that's the way. I don't do it that way. I do it the way Tim did it, which is that you just come in the room and you make bows, and Tim bows back, and then you just sit down and start talking about whatever it is that's on your mind. Dokusan should be a time to talk about things that are related to your Zen practice. So you don't want to just kind of go in there for chatting time. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have a burning, amazing question, and I'm not going to be impressed no matter what you bring in, so there's no sense in trying to impress me or impress your teacher, whoever you have that you're doing Dokusan with. So you just come in, sit down, and start talking. In the case, usually Dokusan is done in the context of a retreat. So that means there's a limited amount of time. In a long retreat with fewer people, you can do more. What we've been doing at the Mount Baldy retreats is limiting Dokusan to 10 minutes. And because the time is limited, you ought to get to the point. So, have some idea what you want to say before you go in there. You don't have to, kind of prepare a speech, but have some idea what you want. And then I'll just try to respond to that as best I can. And I think that's what Tim did. I know that's what Tim did. And I just, in my own case, I just try to be honest. I try to listen very carefully to whatever the person brings to me and respond as authentically as possible without, trying to give Zen cliches or, trying to impress that person with how Zen I am and, how to, whatever. And we have a talk. For me personally, this is pretty intense, and I don't know if I convey this to the people who are coming into me, but after an hour, or usually it's an hour or so that I do at a time of Dokusan, it's exhausting. It's really, truly exhausting, and I kind of feel like, that's over. The individual Dokusans are usually fine for me, but it's a kind of hard work. Now, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a relationship counselor, and I often get thrown in with relationships counselor or psychologist sort of questions. But, if you ever come to a retreat with me, try to avoid those because I don't know what to do with those. But if somebody comes in with a Zen thing, I can usually answer it. And I've become used to certain questions that come up over and over and over. I try not to give a pat response to those questions, but there are certain questions to which the response is always going to be, that's just the content of your zazen, or in Kobun Chino Roshi's words, that's just the content of your enlightenment. I also feel that Dokusan is something that is best done in the context of a retreat. People are always asking me if I will do Dokusan outside of a retreat. Like if, I'll just, will you have Dokusan with me sometime? And I usually go, okay, let's schedule a time, and then I avoid scheduling that time as much as possible. And I put it off and I put it off. And if the person is really, really persistent, eventually I might schedule a time to do Dokusan. I was telling my girlfriend about this, and she asked a question that actually other people, when I've told them about this, have asked. And they go, do they offer to pay you for that? And I went to her, no, they never offer to pay for that. No one has ever once in the, how many times I can't even guess, dozens and dozens of times that people have asked me for Dokusan outside of a retreat schedule. Nobody's ever offered anything for it. So, there you go. I guess people want it for free. which is great. So, I take time out of my schedule and go and do this thing, and they get it for free. But I don't like doing it that way. People have asked me also for online Dokusan, and I just feel like online Dokusan would be silly. And I did get talked into doing it once, and I don't know how the people who I talked to felt about it, but I felt crappy about it. I felt really bad about doing it, and I thought, I've cheated these people, pretended to do Dokusan with them when all I did was have a Skype chat with a stranger that was not Dokusan. So that's my feeling about that. Nishijima Roshi did not do Dokusan. You could chat with him. He had an office that he went to every day, 5 days a week, and was paid as a consultant for the company he worked for. Now, this is by the time I knew him. I think in the earlier times he actually was a financial advisor to the company, but by the time I knew him, he was doing less financial advising and basically getting this kind of office space and a salary to be kind of a Zen advisor to this company. But if you wanted, when he was alive and doing these things, you could make an appointment to go into his office and have a chat with him. He also hung out at the dojo in Motoyawata in Chiba Prefecture, and I think it was 3 days a week or maybe 4 days a week. And if you wanted to go chat with him during those times, you could, but it wasn't advertised. You kind of just had to grab him and ask, and that's how it worked. And he was always open to talking because he liked talking to people, which is a bit different from me because I don't like talking to people. I mean, just as a general rule of things, I'm not that excited to talk to strangers. And this is probably a personality flaw on my part, but it's something that goes way back, way before I ever got into Zen. I'm just like one of these people that I don't like to talk to people. I don't like phone conversations. I don't like Skype conversations. I'm not Mr. Gregariousness. So Dokusan is always a little bit hard for me, but I think it can be a good practice if it's done correctly. I don't have any great baubles about Dokusan. I had some conversations with Nishijima Roshi and with Tim that were really good for me, and they really helped. But now, being on the other side of Dokusan, see, when I would have those conversations with Tim or with Nishijima, and I was a little stupid squirt, I would project a lot of things like, ooh, are they seeing into my mind, or do they know exactly what to say, and all this kind of mumbo jumbo I put around it on my mind. And I can see people projecting that on me when they come into Dokusan. But the fact is, I'm just trying to feedback whatever you are giving me, and I have no brilliant insight or anything like that. I'm just trying to respond. I'm trying to be like an echo chamber for whatever somebody gives me in Dokusan. So don't put it on me. And the other thing about Dokusan is I don't remember any of them. I mean, I remember sort of vaguely sometimes, but specifics I never remember. So it's kind of safe to tell me a secret in Dokusan because the likelihood is very high that I will completely forget it within 15 minutes. By the time the next person comes in for Dokusan, I'm already on that person's thing and I have no idea. So sometimes people come in who are repeat visitors and say, well, last time when I was in Dokusan I told you this and that, and I'm like, I guess so. I don't know. Probably. You tell me. You probably said it. I don't remember it. So that's Dokusan. And as far as retreats, maybe I'll do a separate one on retreats because I feel like this one's already too long. So, as I said before, my podcast is up. You can find it on iTunes and Spotify and probably other places. It's hosted by Podbean. I'll leave a link below. It's great. Episode 2 is up now. Also, Patreon and PayPal links are below. please donate, because that's how I make my living. Didn't get paid for this last retreat. Don't get very much for book royalties, but your donations are what keeps me going. So that is really great, and that has made my life complete. So we'll see you next time. Bye.